Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Welcome to the Man's World podcast. Thank you for joining us again on this Sunday morning. Again, we are here usually every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Sometimes the times change, but tune in when you can. And for those who are tuning in afterwards, thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about separating or ending a relationship and not the full details, of course. Again, we're covering broad spectrum here, but we talked a lot about what to do before you get into a relationship, or not a relationship, a marriage, getting married. But of course, there's always going to be a time where you're asking yourself, hey, should I keep going forward with this? And today we're going to talk about some of those big red flags of what to look for when it might be this to actually end the marriage. Now, disclaimer, don't listen to one of our signs and be like, oh, that's it. We don't want people to just hear one thing and go off and run like, oh, that's my time to quit. Everybody's situation is unique. And you should, again, go back to the stuff we talked about in the earlier episodes. You should have a good network around you. You should have some good people around you that can give you advice, that you can run this information by. You can always contact us. But this is going to give you a nice framework that should get you thinking of, when I see certain things happening, is it time to ask myself the serious question of, do I keep on investing in this marriage and should it go on? So we're going to let Mubarak take us off from here. I'm going to put some stuff in the chat. If you guys have any questions, click the link to ask an anonymous question, or you can just type the question in the chat. And if you want as well, you could just type in there. We could have you come on the show if you have any questions you want to talk to about us or talk to us directly. So from there, go ahead, Mubarak.
So, as Yavra said, we don't want people to go jump and run too fast with some of these things, but it's important to take a tangible approach or take a logical, systematic approach to getting into a relationship and definitely getting out of one. Because once you're in a marriage, once you're married, it shouldn't be taken lightly when and how you should jump out. So let's get into it. So the first thing is when you should consider, when the thought should come across your mind as far as, do I need to start working on getting out of this relationship? Do I need to, you know, go ahead and divorce this woman? Or if it's a woman, do I need to go ahead and seek an annulment or a separation from this man? And this is the first thing, one of the first things that you should consider, is that the reasons, the benefits that you were seeking, that you needed for getting into the relationship, are not there. So if you have your reasons why you are needing to get married or wanting to get married, and those reasons that you wanted to get married for, or that you decided to get married for, are not there, then this is where you have to strongly consider. And it's not a thing where you say, well, the reason why I wanted to get married, they're not there, but I'm married, so like this till death do us part type of thought process that's kind of in the West, even though people don't really adhere to it, but there's a thought of, and it's not Islamic, but there's a thought of, well, I'm married, so I just got to stick it out. No, you don't have to stick it out if it's not working for you or your partner, but you have to look at it from this point of view. What is the reason why you decided you chose to marry this person? And are those the reasons why you did? Are those benefits there? So we try to break it down in a few points. People usually get married and they stay together. People that stay together, several reasons, about 5 is what we have come up with. The number one reason, it might not be the number one reason, but it's a big reason, and that is sex. Most people, they get married because they have a sexual attraction to the other person, and they want to, be able to fulfill that in a halal way. Other reasons are a man or a woman, or both, they want to have children. They want to grow their families. You can't do that without getting married. There's family ties and strengthening your social network. It's not that common in Western culture or these days where someone will decide to marry another person because of they come from this family or they have this type of network going on, that if you are able to plug into that network and tie your family to that family, and for centuries it's been that way, families and groups were tied together through marriage. But that's something that really people should get back to. You really should think strategically about who you decide to marry based on not just, wow, they have nice shoulders, or she's tall or she's short or whatever, however you like. But you should be thinking of in terms of who's the men in her life and in her family, or whatever. Who's her father? Who her brother might be, or who her sister or her mother might be. Whoever, whatever the connections. If it's going to be a strong, good connection that's going to
Yep.
benefit not just the individual relationship but the families all together, then that is a big factor that I think people are leaving out that they should. But this is one of the reasons why people get married. Okay, a good company. This probably should be at the top, but sometimes people just want someone to experience life with and have a good time with, not just intimacy, but just good company being around. And so that is a factor in marriage that people do. The other one is financial benefits. Sometimes, a lot of times, a woman wants someone to be able to take care of them: food, clothing, shelter, companionship, safety, protection, and all those things. And a man can get married for those same things, as far as that woman might bring something in terms of financial security and stability. It's not
Mm-hmm.
out of the question. I don't want people to think that that's not it. It can factor in, but in general, these things: intimacy, children, strengthening family ties or building a network, good company, and financial benefits are some of the main reasons why people get married. So if a person has gotten married for one or all of these things, and then they realize that these things are not there, these things that you were hoping for were not there. For instance, someone says, you know what, I need, a companion. I need someone so that I can, in a halal way, fulfill my desires and have intimacy, sexual intercourse, and come to find out that you're not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that's the reason that you got married and this is causing a problem for you, this is now. If you're not getting it, but there's other things on the list that are more important than that and more critical in your mind, then you have to make the consideration. But if that is the reason why you got married, and we've talked about before why that should not be, for men and for women, should not be the only reason. But if it is, and it's not working, then that you should give very strong consideration. This marriage is not going to work for you. It's never going to work for you if that's the only reason why you got married and it's not there. So you can't overlook that and just hope it will get better. As far as children, you like, if a person, man or woman, can't have children, sometimes people, are not able to have children, and we can keep going down the list. But sometimes these things are there if they're not present. If the things that and so it has to be strategic how you get in. You have to know why you got married and know the things that you need out of it, so that you can assess whether those things are there or not. And if they're not there, then you can address that with your spouse and say, hey, these are the reasons why I got married and I'm not able to, progress in these things. So you can see if you can somehow get those things on track and get those things. But if not, you have to give strong consideration to going your separate ways.
Real quick, I want to just jump in with tie it into our last show when we had the question of like, oh, is the back and forth, conflicts that you every day that you go through with your spouse, is that bad? No, like this is the stuff that's real conflicts, right? This is like a real conflict because like you're not getting like out of these 5 things Mubarak mentioned as far as like intimacy, children, family, network, good company, and the financial benefits of marriage. Those main things of why you're married, and there's a conflict. You're not getting it or not getting what you expected. And that's when you actually have to get into these conflict resolutions. This is when it's actually serious. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that this is when you really want to use your skills to resolve the conflict. And as Mubarak mentioned, sometimes resolving the conflict is actually ending the relationship.
So, and I think those things, like even with the financial benefits, one caveat, or maybe not a caveat, but one point to think about is sometimes you may get married, in hopes of, a financial benefit, right? So men and women, it can go both ways. It's different, but for a woman, she got married because she was expecting to be financially supported, right? So she gets married, and the financial benefit, the support is not to the level that she needs or expected, or it's not there at all. So But sometimes, let me just finish this point and I'll let you go. But sometimes what happens is you have to weigh that thing versus possibly all the other points, right? And these 5 points are not the only ones, but maybe she's not getting any financial benefit, but she is getting good company. She's getting the intimacy. She has her children to factor in, because what happens is if she gets divorced, okay, maybe she gets the children, but then the children may be in a situation where they lose time with their father. Then she gets married to someone else for those financial benefits, but the children go back to the father. So there's there's the concept where they say it's cheaper to keep her for the man, right? Because if he divorces his wife, maybe he might have child support. He's going to have to support his children remotely in a lot of times. But also that also Islamically, it's also the same for a woman. Similarly, where she might go seek another person who might have a different financial setup, but socially and that good company and their children and all those things factor in. So that's something that you also have to think about. Go ahead, Hoos.
Yeah, so this topic is very, very nuanced in my opinion, because the categories that are listed here, I think that they might affect different groups of people depending on their age, depending on their experience, and let's say you have a 45-year-old man who's, he has some experience in his back pocket. He might not put high value on certain things, whereas if he marries a 21-year-old woman, she has high value. So there's a 24 year gap there, and they're both getting married. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with you guys, but we want to make sure that we're giving people a full scope scale of what we're talking about, and how it could be very nuanced in every situation, like we already know, is different. So somebody like, let's say, like a 45-year-old man, where he's not putting too much crazy emphasis on, let's say, sex. But a 21-year-old girl, I'm just using it as an example, a 21-year-old young lady, she wants to have sex like, you know what I mean, like a rabbit in a barn or something like that. So, and she feels in her mind, because the frequency is not there, that she might be getting neglected, or something like this. Or another scenario would be if the guy comes in, sometimes guys be capping about their finances and stuff like that. So they could come in capping about their finances. Then a woman paints something in her mind which she probably had expectations for. Now remember, she's going into the situation to get financially supported. But then in her mind, she just, well, I expect this, I expect that. Now you use the word expect, Mubarak. That's why I'm just trying to make sure that we have an understanding, because if a woman expects this type of lifestyle based off of what this guy said, or probably embellished, and she has this a lavish lifestyle that she's expecting, and then when it doesn't hit that mark and reality sets in, she might feel like, oh, I'm being abused, or I'm being this, or I'm being that. So I just want to just take those type of scenarios into consideration when we're talking about this. I mean, in my opinion, keeping it a buck, good company should be number one. Because, and the reason why I would put good company as number one is because this is someone you're going to be sharing your life with. You want to be comfortable with the person that you're going to share your life with, and also have kids and raise a family with. So I would put emphasis on good company, whereas someone else might be like, I'm in it for the finance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's going to have their own priority list of what is at the top, and like you said, it's going to change depending on what your life experiences are and what you value as a person. But I think what it boils down to is, no matter what stage you are at, and I think Mubarak was going to get more into this, is that you have to weigh these multiple things. It's never really going to boil down to one thing unless that one thing is very, very important to you. So for instance, and we can have a whole bunch of different scenarios, but say, the person has their list, but maybe we'll say this probably falls into good company. Like, say, for a woman, her biggest thing is I don't want my man can't cheat on me, right? And say he's providing everything financially and all the different things that's on her checklist, but the one thing that overrides, it doesn't matter, it overrides everything, is her man cheats on her, she's done with the marriage, and that's it. right? Infidelity, because like now I have no longer good company. Where say another woman be in the same situation, be like, oh well, as long as he didn't have any kids with her or he didn't marry her, like everybody has their own little levels, and it's just really about weighing all those different criteria of like, why did you get married to that person, and if something of that why you got married to that person isn't being met, then you have to start having this internal dialogue of how do I address it? Should I address it? Is it a big deal? And that's kind of like what the methodology is, going forward.
Yeah, because I mean, if you pay attention to how we have laid a lot of the premarital stuff, and then we got into being married or whatever, you have to be very you have to be very strategic. And it's not just women. Men make this mistake too, as far as not really thinking through strategically how this is going to progress past, the first night. Men probably think more about, how they're going to be, in the bedroom with the woman, and they don't really think about, that really the 99% of the other things that go on. And women probably similar, and then reality sets in afterwards. And what we want people to try to do is think strategically, have these things laid out. So like Hussein said, the woman is expecting, and she's, yeah, they do expect. But the thing is, if these points, your expectations, the things that you need are clearly identified, the reasons why you're getting married are clearly identified, and we have warned, I don't know how many times, how many weeks over these last months, if you put sex and physical attraction at the top of the list, and you will allow your desire for intimacy to overshadow clear red flags or clear things that you need to get on with your life and to have a successful relationship, if you put those to the side based on your attraction, what's going to happen is you'll wind up in this situation where you're expecting, or you have expectations that are not real. Or when you get into the relationship and the things that you actually need for you to be successful and for the relationship to be successful are not there. But had you really thought about it strategically before you ever got there. And that's why it's very important for women to use the men in your life that know you, that love and care about you, to help you make those decisions. Because, and for men, especially for men too, is that use those people who that know you, that care about you, that can help you to strategically make these decisions, so that when you get to this point where, if you had done it in a proper way, when you get to this point, man, should I divorce this woman or not? These points that you may have laid out, either all or some or maybe more, it's very clear. You say, well, these are the 6-7 reasons why I got married, and they're not there. So it's clear. Now, if you ignore those things, you say, this is why I got married, and those things are not there. And this is what we're trying to get people to do. Don't ignore these things. The reasons why you got married, the things that you needed out of a relationship are not there. So you have to, so you can't let, and good company, I know you mentioned good company should be at the top of the list, and it should be. Good company actually is something that I would say that it's reasonable for good company to mask a lot of the other things that might not be there, as opposed to just sex masking those other things. Because good company, I think, is worth, everything else combined or more. But still, at the same time, if
On
you
that
have
note,
it very clear,
probably every single one of them, depending if you focus too much on one thing, whether it's financial or good company or intimacy or children, any one of those things had the high potential of just masking all the things that aren't being met, which is like that's a big risk. So like, I guess one of the things people could take away from this is, are you masking all the things that aren't being met because you're so hyper focused on one thing,
Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to add on to what Mubarak just said about the network. A good network of men is not only beneficial, super beneficial for women, but it's also very beneficial for men as well. To be able to kind of bounce information off of your companions, people that you trust, you respect, you know what I mean? And you're just seeking their counsel, seeking their advice. This doesn't make you any less of a man or anything like this. In fact, this makes you a intelligent person, before you make certain decisions, because I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm gonna keep it a whole thousand. I feel like majority of men will at some point in their lives fall victim to PNC, post nut clarity. You know what I mean? To where you kind of, I'm just keeping it real. You know what I mean? You're kind of, you see a woman, she's really attractive and, you know, she looks good, blah, blah, blah. She's just hitting all of the switches for you. And then you're like, you know, and then you start convincing your mind that you can make certain things work. And like we're talking about, you start ignoring clear red flags because you're putting so much emphasis on trying to bed this woman, you know. And then after all of that, the dust is settled. You know, you've done it a couple of times, and you realize that's why I was putting the emphasis on good company. Because if the woman is good company, or if both of you guys are good company for each other, you will be able to kind of appreciate more about that person, and kind of it might give you a little bit more incentive to work through certain things versus if she's bad company and all you did was go to for the attraction. Now you caught all up, you could have got a baby involved, you know what I mean, or you could have got some other situations, and you did not think with a clear-headed mind to where if you had a network of men, nah, that's not really a good decision. You know, that network of men would be on the outside. He wouldn't have that type of, you feel what I'm saying? So he would be on the outside. And this is something that we do daily in our lives. You know what I'm saying? We seek counsel and advice from people that we respect and we feel like they have our best interest, and they're going to give us, they're going to shoot straight and give us real information about the situation that's in front of us.
So Mubarak, let me ask you, like, so once you say I'm in a situation, you know, I'm over the honeymoon phase or whatever, I get into the situation, I realize, wait a minute, I got married for ABC reasons, and these things are very important to me. And then I find out, like, okay, A, B, and C are not being met. What's my next step in my marriage? What do I do at what do I
So it's a matter of if you have certain things, and for men and women, it's going to be different. I think for any of the things that you're not getting that you need, you could possibly fill that need. You could possibly fill that need by getting another wife without, you know, having to get divorced. It is not something that I would advise to just say, well, I'm just going to go get another wife without really assessing whether or not, because you have to look at, if you get another wife, how is that going to fit? For instance, some people might say, listen, I love everything about my wife, XYZ, but the intimacy is not there. So she's good company. She's, you know, children, everything that you like and want, but the intimacy is not there. And you can say, well, I can fix this one issue by, you know, marrying someone. But see, when you marry someone for that one issue, it's just very rare that that's all they're going to want. Sometimes they say, well, you know, yeah, that's all I want. But no, they're going to want everything that the other wife has, which is fair. It's normal. So this is the thing where it's nuanced. It's a little tricky because, and I don't want to say tricky, but it's not as easy to solve, you know, with saying, okay, 1, 2, and 3 are there, but 4 and 5 are gone. So for a man, you could possibly solve the issue and not get divorced. Like we said, the cheaper to keep her thing, where if you do divorce your wife, there's a whole nother set of issues that come along with that. You're going to have, you know, where your children are going to be away from you if you have them. Then there's the jealousy issue that comes in with the people who are, you know, with exes and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that mixed in with that. I would say that before considering adding another wife just because the wife you have is missing certain areas, I would say that if it's a situation where you know that they're not going to be able to do this, and if they don't have the good company aspect, then you should consider divorcing before just getting another wife if the good company is not there, because that thing can help. But if it's just one of the others, and the good company is there, then you should consider staying. But I would say for the woman, it's different because so the woman could have the finances, she could have the good company, she could have the social network, and she could have the children. But if the sex is not there, the woman is not going to be able to solve that by getting another person. So it's different. It's
right?
There's a different battle there for the woman. It is
I'm gonna
that
give
one
it.
is it's not an easy situation. It's not an
Oh,
easy situation if that one thing is there. The man can possibly solve it, but he would add some other, hidden factors that might derail a lot of the good things that he has going on. But for the woman,
So what you're saying is that there's depending on what it is that is missing from the marriage, and depending on whether you're the man or the woman, there's different things that you may or may not be able to do, but it's gonna be different for every person. But like, what if you run into a situation where let's take, like, from a man's perspective, you take polygamy out of the equation. I married this person for this reason, but then you find out that this person cannot provide or is not meeting those expectations, right? And like, what if it's a situation of like, maybe they were hiding it from me, or they were being deceptive during our courting period? Like, talk about that a little bit for me.
all right. So let me flip it back. Let me flip it back on you. Let me flip
Mm-hmm.
it back on you. Let me ask you a question. Would you consider, for instance, it's all or nothing basically. You have a woman who is, I'm talking about, gets you in every way. I mean, is good company, is the poster child for good company. Like everything you like, she likes doing. You like to be around her. She's good company, in every sense of the word. But intimacy, zero. You just, whatever reason, you're not getting anything in that category. Or you have a woman that I mean, I don't want to say hate, but you do not like her. She's bad company. She's everything that she's like, basically a type of woman that you just don't want to be around. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
when she calls and you look at the phone, you're like, this person. When she's around, whatever. When she shows up, you really like, you just can't, just want to get away from them. But
Yeah.
behind closed doors, gets the job done. I mean,
Right.
gets the job done, right? But you just, and for some people, men should know, but for women, they might not understand this concept. Yes, a man can want to be intimate with a woman every day or all the time or whatever, and really be almost infatuated with her on that level, but absolutely not like her at all and not want to be around her as soon as he's done, face to face with her, so to speak. So I say, which one would you take if you say, listen, I know I'm pretty much not going to get any intimacy, for instance, but as far as just a person to chill with or whatever, go about life, dealing with business or whatever the case may be, whatever you got going on, she's really a partner in every sense of the word and really a big help, good company, all that, but there's nothing else going
Yeah.
on, basically.
Definitely the first option. Definitely the first option. 10 out of 10 times.
that wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
even a hard question. Definitely the first option.
Yeah.
And you got to understand also, hold on, Mubarak, you're talking to, we're talking about seasoned men here, men who have,
Yeah.
I mean, I think even if I was 17, I would choose that option.
that's what I'm saying, but you're
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
like,
know.
I wouldn't choose that. If I was 17,
Yeah, I would.
You know what? Well, I would say this. I mean, we all would. I'm sure we would now at this stage in our lives definitely choose that. I mean, like it's a no brainer.
Mhm.
But I would say that for the person, and I think we all probably, you know, first, relationship or whatever, you think that if a person is good company, but you're not getting that one thing, you're like, well, you think, well, the next person is going to be good company and you're going to get that. So sometimes at 17, you might be naive and thinking, unless someone tell you, hey, listen, all women are not good like this. Lots of women are headache, but this is a good girl. It's been plenty of times where people have said, hey, listen, this is a great woman. This is the one you should marry. And be like, hey, but I don't have an attraction to her or whatever, which attraction is an important thing. But I think a young person, it's very hard to get them to realize how important and how heavy on the scale just being good company weighs. It outweighs sex by 1,000 miles, by 1,000,000 miles. But it's hard to get a person who either is not having any or hasn't had any, to realize that. Well, I mean, once you've been around the block and you've done all that, it's just not as important as it is, when you're younger. But definitely we would choose that option, but it would be very hard to get a young man or a single man
Exactly.
to realize
That
that.
ties back into exactly what we were talking about with the network. If the young man has a good relationship with his father or his uncles or something like this, and they can kind of guide him and coach him, he's still going to have that fire and that lust to just want to, you know what I mean? Because it's a new experience and this girl is so attractive and all that. But again, trying to tell y'all young men, that post nut clarity hits hard. It hits real hard. So you got to be real careful about who you're choosing to, get into these situations with, because ultimately it could change part of your life. If you get caught up with the wrong situation, you end up having kids and all this other stuff, and that 10 minutes of lust wore off a long time ago. Now you're dealing with a lifelong situation, you know what I mean, and a child that you brought in, you don't even like this person. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen where people don't like each other at all. And you're thinking, how did y'all end up having 2 or 3 kids? Y'all don't even like each other. So it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we move on to the next section, I just want to say now for men and for women, but especially for women, these topics, the intimacy, children, family network, good company, financial benefits, or whatever else might fit into that category, before you say, I'm not getting one or all of these things, strongly consider that, especially if it's one. For instance, if sex is not there, you have to strongly consider, yes, this is what I need in my life, and I should consider, seeking a divorce from this person because it's not there. You have to strongly factor in, if these other things are there, how that's going to affect you. Don't, and for men as well, don't just say, well, I don't have this thing. Also look at these other factors and say, how is that, if those things are there, know that those things might be missing in the next situation and they might not come back. So that's one thing that you have to think about. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, but this is a baseline for you to at least to work from, inshallah.
I want to talk about real quick the sex situation, because I think there's a couple of things that kind of get overshadowed, or something like this. The sex thing for woman and man, if they are developing this goes back to good company. If they're developing a good company and good relationship and stuff, this makes the man, how the woman behaves outside of the bedroom. Not something, we already know that a man can still do that and not really like the person. But if the woman she's on her stuff and she's really, keeping good company, this is going to incentivize and entice the man to want to be more passionate, be more, X, Y, and Z in the bedroom. Because men, if a man doesn't really like a woman like that, we already know how that's going to go. He's just going to get in there, whoop, whoop, wop, you know what I mean, and get away from there. He's not really going to have that type of passion and desire that he needs to be with that woman to get that job done so that she is fulfilled. So it's a big deal for, good company to be, in my opinion, to be higher on that level, making sure that the woman's making sure that she's pleasing to the man physically. You know what I'm saying? You got to be smelling good. You need to, make sure that you have some things in order so that, because you already talked about it, Mubarak, a man, he can kind of just, I'm not getting it over here. I can just go get married again. Of course, that comes with his own set of trouble or problems, but the woman, she's kind of stuck. So it's very important for her to make sure that she's on her game. And a lot of times I see situations, or I know situations, where the woman is not on her game, but she expects all of this love, passion, the intimacy is not there because there's no connection of good company outside of the bedroom. So that when it's in the bedroom, the guy is more like, I'm just going to bust. The woman, she needs more of an emotional stimulant. You know what I mean? She needs to feel a connection and all these different things. And it doesn't translate because, there's not really a good relationship or good company outside of the bedroom. So I just wanted to talk about that. Honestly, I cannot wait until we get into the subjects of finances and sets and stuff like that, because these are big topics. We're kind of skimming over the top right now, but we just need to have some shows and segments specifically talking about finances, specifically talking about good company, specifically talking about sex and stuff, because It's a big deal.
Yeah,
All that
I
kind
would
of
say definitely if there's nothing that you take away from this first segment is that definitely be good company, men and women. Be as good a company as you can. Be as good a friend as you can, and a partner, a roommate. However, if you look at it like that, just being someone who is is good being around. Just regardless of what's going on, you're good to be around. You're good, with whatever's going on, and that usually can
build attraction. It's going to
in
build
all the other
attraction.
areas actually. So if we go on to the next reason, and these are reasons why you should, these are the red flags or the indicators why you should be looking for or strongly considering divorcing, or when you should divorce. So second category is very important. So if a person proves that they are not capable of what they said they were, or what they agreed to be able to do. So if they agree that they're going to do certain things in a relationship, and like we said, you're depending on what they said their capabilities are or what they agreed to do, and you're depending on that to then, you know, run your family or to then progress in your life, married,
Mm-hmm.
then this is definitely something where you have to hit the brakes, you know what I mean? And say, all right, this person said they were able to do this, or this person presented themselves this way, but that's not the case. Like before, we had the question where the woman said the man presented himself as a religious person, come to find out
Mm-hmm.
he ain't even practice. Or, there's lots of things where, the person is not who they said they were, or they said they were able to do this. Like if a person says, yeah, I married this person because they're a graphic designer, and the person can't even use a computer. You're like, okay, well, that that's something you got to be like, you can't just overlook everything else. Now someone says, well, he said he was a graphic designer, the man can't even read or write, and he doesn't know how to use a computer, but he's great, behind closed doors, intimacy is great. You're gonna let that overshadow, right? But what you needed out of the relationship is not there. The man said he had a job, you come to find out he hasn't had a job in 10 years, and you
Mm-hmm.
got married because you needed some help financially, you needed that support. So, but he's just blowing your mind, intimacy wise. So you're like, you just overlook it. I'm saying maybe if that weighs high enough on the scale, maybe you can work with it. But I would say if you got married expecting and needing certain things, and he's not what he said he was, not capable of the things that he agreed to do or she agreed to do, then you gotta be ready to hit the brakes and get ready to jump ship. So I would say any lies or hiding information, choosing not to mention things, including but not limited to, and these are things that should be a red flag, where as soon as you find them out, and I'll say this, you have to consider almost immediately leaving, because once you find out the person is lying or hiding these things, it's like an iceberg. You don't know what else this person is capable of lying to you about or hiding. So, education. If a person says, I have a degree in this, XYZ, come to find out that's a lie, or he doesn't have a degree or certificate qualification, but I watch Grey's Anatomy. Actually, I'm not a doctor, but I watch House sometimes. Listen, you gotta go, because there's who knows what else they're lying about. So if they lie about their education, if they lie about their criminal record, this person is a felon, he's a criminal, whatever. And I understand that a person might not share with you, hey, listen, I got a felony or whatever. I consider that a lie, because why are they not mentioning it? This is something that will affect you. If you're a person who has no criminal record, man or woman, and women have felonies too. And so a man actually has to consider this too, where a woman may be a criminal. Maybe she's a reformed criminal or whatever. But, when you go to try to travel to another country, come to find out, they won't give her a passport
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it might be. So there's lots of things. So if that person, you come to find out, well, they never mentioned the fact that they got out of jail 4 years ago for a double murder and armed robbery or whatever. Now they spent 20 years in jail and they're reformed. All right, but you didn't share that information. That affects your life, and now you're going to be restricted because you're tied to this person. So I don't care if it's 3 weeks in and he's just wonderful, but he hid that from you. Yeah, 3 weeks in, but 3 years from now, it could be a big headache. So I would say if these things are lied about or withheld, get the heck out. Get out, and immediately, before things get, because if it's early, this is just that love bomb or whatever they call it. What's the word? Just dopamine rush or whatever. It's
Yeah.
not real. You got to get out of there. I would say children or relatives. If a person lies about who their relatives are, or if they lie or hide the fact that they are related to someone. For instance, if a person says, and people do this quite a bit, they say, hey, what's going on with your mother and father? Oh, my parents died. Come to find out they're alive. They live in the next city over. And
Yeah.
people lie about that. Why? So why did you lie about not having parents? My parents died or whatever. Because maybe the truth or the stories or the information that the parents might provide. Come to find out, if they lie about having children, some people, it's horror stories where they say, what, this man actually had 7 children that he just didn't mention. I asked him, did he have any children? He said no. Or I never saw him with any children, so I never mentioned it. If a person is going to not mention their children or something like that, there's a reason. And so you might be next where you have children with him. You may be looking for him or whatever, but he's on to the next girl and he's not telling them about you. Why? Obviously, he's not taking care of his children or something like that. There's a strong reason for why he's not mentioning those, or she, especially like if it's a woman who's not mentioning that she got children, that's wild. But
Something wrong. Run away.
let me just get through these and then I'll let y'all comment. But significant debts. If a person, man or woman, has significant debt, right? They got $200,000 in school loans or whatever it might be, and they don't mention them because they're either, look at the 2 scenarios that can come of significant debt. You say, well, it ain't my debt. So you don't care. So either number one, they are going to be the finances that you could be using together to further the family. They're going to be paying off, significant debts. Or if that person that says, well, she got that debt, or he got that debt, but he says, I ain't paying. I ain't going to pay it. So guess what? That's the type of person that don't pay their debts. That's going to negatively affect you.
Yep.
So, so that's his thing. Get out of there. This is not something that you should play around with. Employment. The person says, yeah, I work at Subway around the corner. Come to find out, he never worked there. She says, yeah, I got a job at Walmart. I'm a manager. I've been there. Now, actually, this person, yeah, I'm the store director for Costco. Come to find out, no, you just push the carts. Lying about your employment, level of employment, and these type of things, it's a red flag. You might say, well, okay, at least he does have a job. No, because if that person will lie to you to get, there's all types of other things that could be there. If these things are lied about, you got to get out of there. Medical issues or STDs, immediate. If a person says, well, come to find out they had, especially, okay, AIDS is obvious one, but if they have STDs and they lied about them, they hid that fact. Come to find out, you see the person, wow, what, you got bumps everywhere. What's going on? Well, you know what, I didn't know. Nah, you got to get out of there. There's a horror story on one of the, somebody talking about where a man, he had, what he did was he wanted to get married again. He married a woman. The woman told him, I have herpes. I don't want nobody to clip that, John, make a short out of it. I don't have herpes. The woman had herpes. Okay, the woman had herpes that he married, and she told him. But he had another wife, but he did not tell his other wife. So what happened? Well, he got herpes, and his first wife got herpes. And the first wife came to the second wife and told her, yo, our husband's been sleeping around or whatever. I wind up getting herpes because of dealing with him, man. I'm so mad at him. You got to protect yourself, sister, XYZ. She said, you didn't know? I told him I had herpes. He didn't tell you? I got herpes. I had herpes before we got married, and I told him. So the woman proceeds to stomp the second wife into the ground, nearly killed her, because she felt like that she should have came to her and told her, but her husband. So you want to get a divorce. Anyway, the point is, STDs, any medical issues like if a woman might have had a hysterectomy. She doesn't even have a uterus. She can't have kids, but she hid that fact from you. Yeah, get out. So medical issues, we could go in there. And infidelity is the last one I added in there. It's like, for instance, if a person winds up, which, I mean, we know what infidelity is. We don't need to go down that road. But I would say this, if a person is someone who is a serial cheater, I don't want to say serial cheater, but a person who steps out on their marriage, and that's how you got together or whatever it might be, most likely you're going to have further issues with that infidelity. And it also shows a bit of the character of the person. And I know that people do make mistakes here and there. I'm not saying this, but if infidelity is an issue, one time, Lord knows best. But infidelity is an issue where this person, they will not stick to the person who they've committed to, man or woman. You got to get lost. So those are some things. The second category that you should definitely look at. I know that was a lot of stuff, but these are the main points. I'm sure there's other things that people can think of, but these are the main points that I would say that if any of these lies are there, you got to.
Yeah. And especially if you're seeing these things early on in your marriage, and I say early on, like within the first, like, up to 5 years, that's early on. This is something you should really like, wait a minute, because what we're giving you guys here is, if you go back to our earlier videos, if you have all these things in mind, it's almost like planning a project. I don't know if anybody has it, if they went to school or been in business or anything like that. Even in like engineering, when you're like planning a project, you're planning your project along the way when you have these things in mind. Because in the beginning, when you identified the things that why you want to get married, the things that you're looking for in a spouse, you have these in your mind, and you know what your most important things are, then you actually get married, you automatically have a checklist of, okay, wait a minute, let's reassess now. Let's see how this project is going. Let's see how this marriage is going, right? Honeymoon phase is over, first 3 months, well, how's this thing going? And then you say, well, you know what? We're falling behind here. This hasn't even been addressed yet. You go down the checklist, you're like, wait a minute. Nothing is checking on my checklist. What's going on here? And then you reassess and you keep taking those steps. So, and it's also important to know, just real quick, that none of these things exist in a vacuum, right? We're talking a little bit, and we'll probably get in because we got one of the questions related to this. Like, we're talking about intimacy. Just because someone's meeting something on one aspect, like say intimacy, like everything as far as intimacy is going great, but say the husband's not meeting the financial aspect, that will inevitably affect the intimacy. It'll affect the good company. Good company will affect finances. And then they all work together, right? So that's why it's important, as Mubarak said, you have to take a step back and not focus on one thing and look at all these go together. And when you have these key things that's at the bottom of the screen here, like these, and I'm pretty sure there's a few others, but these key important aspects that especially marriage is like built on, and someone's being dishonest, hiding things, that's a very, very clear red flag in my mind of like, yeah, I need to start looking at how to get out of here with as less baggage as possible.
So let me ask you guys a question. So what would you advise for instance, say a woman comes to you and says, okay, listen, brothers, I need some advice. My husband is a great man. He's great. Intimacy is great, wonderful. He's great company. He provides, he's good, he's religious, family network or whatever. I love my in-laws and his cousin, everything is great. I don't have any issues except for the fact that he is a serial cheater. He steps out on the marriage. But as far as intimacy is concerned, I don't have an issue. Like, what I need from him, I get that and more. But he cheats. And I've caught him, several times or whatever, but it's the issue I have with him, whatever.
So
he's not getting another wife or whatever. Maybe the finance, he doesn't have enough finances to do so. Now, of course, this is Muslims, right? So what would you advise a woman who has a husband who, in every category, he's 10 out of 10, but he does engage in infidelity? What would you say?
I'll go first here. I would advise that woman to really sit down with her husband. I don't like using that word heart to heart, that phrase heart to heart, but have a real hard conversation with him and try to see if she could open up the floodgates there. Because what I found out with my experience is a lot of times if a man is hitting all these other marks, but he's stepping out on a relationship or something like that, so he has good qualities, but he's doing this over there. With my experience, a lot of times he's not able to have that conversation with the woman. The woman is not receptive. She's not open to that. And I believe, based off of what I've experienced, that if women would be a little bit more receptive and open to having those hard conversations and allowing that man to pursue things in a more halal and authentic way, then I think that it would minimize the, him stepping out. Now, of course, I'm not saying that the guy wouldn't do that, but listen to what you said in your scenario. The woman said that the guy was checking all the boxes, but he's doing this over there. So it may be a situation where she needs to have a conversation with him and open that up. In terms of finances, he might not be able to do that, but then she could talk to him and be like, listen, I'll work with you, but as a wife, I have to cover you and protect you as well. I cannot, allow you to just continue to sin. You know what I'm saying?
So you're gonna ask her to subsidize his new wife, so she go to work or something, so that he can afford to.
Well, remember, she said he's checking all those boxes. So if he's checking all those boxes and she's trying to get him to stop committing sin, there may have to be a stronger sacrifice on her end because he is checking all these boxes. Great everywhere else, great sex, great this, good man, spiritual, all these different things, but he can't have a conversation about what he got going on. So it may be a situation where she might have to kind of step in there to subsidize that type of situation. Or I don't even want to say subsidize, it's a strong word, but do something to where she can open the floodgates and allow him to bring in a sister wife or something to where that might cure his.
So here's what's going to happen. So we're talking about a serial cheater, right? From my experience and from what I've seen, someone who's a serial cheater, they actually have no interest in polygamy. No, they have no interest in polygamy, and polygamy won't stop them from cheating. They'll just be cheating on 2 wives or 3 wives or 4 wives, right? Now, sign of someone that a situation where polygamy might work in a situation in a marriage where a wife may have to go to her husband and say, hey, maybe polygamy is the answer, is a situation where the man has cheated, but he's not a serial cheater, right?
I agree with that right there. But remember what Mubarak said, that the woman said, he's spiritual, he's this, he's that.
Yeah, that's the thing. So like he's checking all the boxes. He's not checking the spiritual one because he's committing adultery. So like he's just good to her. So it doesn't matter. If he's a serial cheater, he can't stop himself from committing adultery with multiple people multiple times. Another wife is not going to stop it.
He cannot box of being spiritual. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why I was basically saying maybe if she's saying that he's great in all these areas, but he keeps stepping out, perhaps there could be some little missing link to where the woman is not allowing him.
I would tell her to leave him immediately. I've never seen any situation with a serial cheater where it was fixed. They were serial cheaters for their entire life until they became old and no one wanted to cheat with them no more.
Yeah, because the thing that bring the serial cheater, what they bring to is like STDs. There's a possibility you could, they're connecting you with other people's bodily fluids, and also these people may not necessarily go away, or like I said, the scenario is thing where there's information missing as far as who.
No,
but
maybe you may have to omit Mubarak. Maybe you have to omit the spiritual aspect because his brother's a serial cheater. He's also a liar. So there's going to be some.
Spiritual on that, because we never know what someone's real spirit. If we're saying that, like, if we're saying he checks the box spiritual, it's probably he makes a lot. He goes to the masjid. He doesn't beat me. He does all these things they're supposed to do outwardly. But this is his vice: is that he can't stop having sex with random women. And like Mubarak said, not only have to worry about STDs. And remember, this could be like, we'll just say, imagine this is a new couple that just got married in the first few years. As those boxes for that lady are going to change as the years go on, and especially as they have kids. And when you're telling that lady, okay, like, because the other option is find a way to deal with it, because he's going to keep cheating. Now you have a daughter. He's teaching your daughter that, yeah, it's okay if your husband just keeps cheating on you. If you have a son, you're teaching your son, like, yeah, just go out there. You don't have to marry these women. Just keep having sex with them. Yes. Like, there's all these different things that keep coming.
Is he getting caught, or is he coming?
She knows about it. She knows about it. And let's just say, listen, I'll say this.
Does he know that she knows?
Yeah. I mean, he's been caught. He's been caught. And so,
is he coming to her communicating? Not really communicating, but, or is she just kind of catching him?
I mean, she thinks he's a good man, but This Negro will not stop jumping it out. But so this would be my advice to her. Actually, my advice to someone who was in this situation would be not to get out because everything else is there. The issue is actually on him. Now, the only caveat is that you have to protect yourself from STDs. Of course, you want to advise him to stop. You want to try to help him to stop. So there's two things here. Number one, if I were that woman, you should use protection. You should use a barrier if you're going to be with him because you don't know what the heck is going on. So that's number one. And I know people are like, oh, how could you advise this? Listen, marriage is not just about sex. It's about everything else. And if everything else is there, that woman could throw everything away. She could wind up without anything, especially if he's checking all the boxes. So I would, and let me just say this. Let me just say one more thing and I'll let you go. Listen, I would tell her straight up, do not leave this man. If everything is there, try to help him, of course, but if she's saying that he checks all my boxes, it's probably likely that for him, she's not checking all of his boxes. It may be a thing where she's satisfied with the situation. She thinks she's got what she needed, maybe intimacy wise. She's like, yeah, this is great. But he's like, not quite there. So it may be a situation where she needs to see what else that she can do. Kind of Hussein kind of pointed that out. She needs to see what else she can do. Now, listen, nope. I know, listen. But nope. The thing is, when we're talking about a life here where for her, she has everything that she needs. And yes, in life, most likely a person who has this type of issues, they're going to be all over the place and everything else. But I only pointed out this scenario to say where you have to, and this is a lot of times women will throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. They will have a man who's hitting on all categories, except for maybe one. They have an issue with, something. To me, it might be something small. This person has, for instance, and we can deal with this in the comment section, but someone mentioned about how a husband had his ex-wife, not his ex-wife, but one of his co-wives as his profile picture or whatever, or she was in his profile picture, but not me. And this, this is causing a big issue where because of, or the children that he has in his profile picture are with this wife, but not her, and so they'll just wreck their whole marriage because of something like this. So in looking at the issue, I would say, listen, if everything that you need for your life is there, then no, don't throw it away. If you can deal with it, try to advise him. Tell him that definitely no one should, just like anything that you do that's haram or not correct, it's incumbent upon you to try to stay away from it if you can, but definitely not spread it and share it. No one should know the issues that you have. The wife knows, but she should try to help him, and she needs to look at her and see where she can fill in at. But I would not advise the woman to leave her husband unless she cannot deal with it. I would not. I would, if everything else is there, then, try to work with it. Now, if you say, well, this person is, he's a bad person. If you say that he's a bad person because of it, which most likely he probably would be, then okay. But if everything else is there, then I say try to help him and keep working.
Like you gave basically what you advise this woman to do is wear a condom, have him wear a condom, use protection, protect yourself from STDs. Is that the only consequence that you could think of being with a man that is a serial cheater?
No, like I said, most likely a serial cheater is going to be failing in many other areas.
Not just about what far as like what he's falling in, but other consequences, not just related to her having sex with her husband.
I would say if he's good in every other area, then I mean.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is a serial cheater a good father?
He definitely could be.
Really?
Definitely could be, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He definitely could be. So what is one of the primary things as a father that we're supposed to do for our children?
Now, if you say the serial cheater is cheating and he's like he's displaying this example for his children, like if his children know about it, then yeah, he's not a good person. But the thing is, if a man or woman is cheating, usually, and a lot of times the partner that they have finds out or knows about it, and sometimes no one else knows. Like, hey, I caught you cheating or whatever. And then if they decide to tell everybody or whatever, and sometimes it is a situation where the kids are like, hey, Sally was over here, Bambi was here last night. Who's Bambi? She's just a friend. She's just a mail lady or whatever. Anyway, the point is that a person can be a cheater and be a good father. A person can.
All right, so let's play this out just real quick. Good father. No one ever knows he's cheating except for the wife, and apparently the dozens and dozens of people he's cheating on, they're the only ones that absolutely know. Nobody else knows. Good father otherwise. Son grows up, and guess what? He starts cheating on his wife. And then he goes to his father and is like, Dad, I'm cheating on my wife. What's the dad going to say?
He's going to say, don't do it. He knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong. Wrong.
Here's my point. Just to make a long story short. Let me give you this real scenario, though.
Before you go, listen, it happens every day in America, where it's been plenty of times where the secretary or the assistant, the personal assistant, they have secretary, they have a personal assistant, they have a masseuse or whatever, and they're sleeping with all these people. The woman knows. She knows. And people have told stories that sometimes when the woman and the husband, the wife has an issue and she's upset him or whatever, she goes to the secretary or the personal assistant or whatever and gets ideas of how to, reconcile or whatever.
Those are different situations. One, that's not a serial cheater.
What?
Right?
What?
That's not a serial. So let's get the definitions correct first. Someone who's in a long-term adulterous relationship with a partner, that's just someone having a mistress. That's not a serial cheater. A serial cheater is someone who's committing adultery multiple times with multiple partners. That's what a serial cheater is. What you just described is someone who has a mistress, which is not a serial cheater. They're in a polygamous relationship without polygamy. That's the guy that you go to and say, hey, maybe you need another wife because you need another long-term relationship with another person. Now, a serial cheater is someone who wakes up on Tuesday, cheats with someone on Tuesday, then by Friday, they're done with that person. Then the next week is like, okay, I need another person to sleep with, and they go get to another person to sleep with them, right? I've never seen any situation where the guy was actually a serial cheater, where anything that the woman did, whether she accepted it, whether she offered polygamy, whether she came back and said, hey, what tricks can I do in the bedroom to satisfy it? There's something actually deeper going on with that person that they actually can't satisfy. And that's why I was like, to say, okay, yeah, they maybe do anything right, and you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but this is actually a major thing. It's almost to the equivalence of, like, if you found out your spouse was a serial killer, but they're doing everything else right, do you go tell the cops, hey, they're killing people? But, oh, no, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, leave that person immediately, because inevitably it's almost like an oxymoron. There's no such thing as a good spouse that is actually a serial cheater. It just doesn't exist.
Let me jump in here, Jaffer. I'm actually going to retract my position. I'm going to agree with Jaffer. Here because as I'm thinking about it more and more, if you are a serial cheater and then your wife, she's fed up with your foolishness. She's had enough of your malarkey. She's like, all right, I'm about to go out here and I'm about to, you know how women, they get a little petty too. I'm about to go cheat. And then she goes and starts stepping out. You have no space, no right. Oh, no, hold on.
Put her out back.
But hold on. You will take that position, but you have no right to take that position.
Yeah.
You know, as a man, you would call yourself. But in Jaffer's scenario, yes, a serial cheater would be. As I'm thinking about it more, that is a serial cheater.
Now, if we're talking about someone who cheats sometimes, that's a different. Your advice is perfect, because there's something different going on that person isn't trying to fulfill some gaping hole that nobody can fill. Like something else, psychology is going on with the serial cheater. They're sex addict. Maybe they were abused as a kid. Something's going on with them that you're not going to be able to fix it.
And I'm not necessarily jumping ship, but I have to be realistic and I have to, be honest. If you're going to say serial, if you're going to use the word serial in that scenario, Mubarak, no, pack that creature up. Send them out.
I think that when I say maybe my term was a little bit off, I think the person that's like a sex addict, to where they might they they might be at the grocery store and run into someone and wind up be behind the fruit stand or something, doing something weird. That type of person is dangerous, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yes.
as far as like, if a person like I said, we see it all the time where a person who is a boss or a CEO or a owner of a company or business or whatever, his secretary, and this is another thing, his secretary might be married to someone else.
Usually are.
And and so it's like, one time I was, a lady I used to work with years ago, she was talking about her husband and how she said, I think he's cheating. And I'm like, how do you know? She said when he was talking with a coworker of his or whatever, they were arguing about something. They were arguing, and it was a passionate argument. Like they were arguing in a way that couples who have like some love and care for each other in an intimate way about. So she said, I never caught him or whatever, but this is not the way that you just you get really upset or interact with a person who's supposed to just be an acquaintance or whatever. But I would say that the person who, definitely my scenario was thinking about a person who they have people who work under them or they work around and interact with, and this person finds himself falling in to situation.
Yeah, and that aspect, I agree with you 100%, because there's and women, you got to understand this, women and men, don't just jump onto these like buzzwords. Like we're because, like, for instance, like to me, I have a very specific thing in my head when I'm thinking serial cheater, right? Just because your spouse may have cheated a few times, or maybe even cheats on a somewhat regular basis, doesn't actually make them a serial cheater. You actually have to look at that situation and be like, okay, what is actually going on? But if this person is like Mubarak said, like, wait, you cheat on me with Susan, or what's the DMX said, like Kathy, Samantha, like that's a serial cheater, right? If you're doing like, that's a different thing. But if your man cheated on you, and maybe he cheated on you a few times with the same person because they're just in the same space, that's a whole different scenario. And yes, you have to look at like, okay, because like we said, cheaper to keep her. The cheaper part, it's also cheaper to keep him. That applies to men and women, as Mubarak said. And it's not just about, well, how much money am I going to have to pay for a divorce, or I'm going to lose in this. The most expensive stuff is the stuff that actually doesn't relate to the finances. And the women can especially see this, is that when you are in a marriage, you have invested so much intangible things into that marriage that when you step out, you lose so much value. That's a cost. That's when we're talking about it's maybe cheaper to keep him, right? Whether you're talking about kids, we're talking about stigma, we're talking about all these different things. Like, okay, now I'm a single lady out here. I mean, we have you hear situations about women out here that are 50 years old, kids are adults, right? And they're asking for divorces from their husbands that they've been married to for 30 plus years, right? Because of, who knows? Like, oh, I didn't like the way that he talked to this lady, or whatever it is. Something that's like, really? You want to go on the market and think you're going to go find a man as good as this guy, and you're 50 plus years old, and the delusion's crazy. I ain't dealing with polygamy. I ain't dealing with this. I need a man that's going to do this and that. It's like, who do you think's marrying you? The next husband you're going to get, the best chance of you getting a husband is going to Jannah. That's your best chance of getting a husband.
like a song we used to sing back in the day. How can you be picky when you're almost 50?
It's so crazy. But yeah, we're gonna have to start. We're gonna take some questions, but we're not even halfway through this entire topic. We're gonna pick it up next week and get to the questions here. But I'm gonna let Mubarak wrap up this last point about what we were just talking about, and then we'll get to the questions.
Yeah, the last thing is based on your future goals, right? What you but you have laid out plans for how you want to progress in your life, your future goals. If they're not willing to help you with that, or they're actually preventing you from progressing, then you have to realize with this person, you're not going to meet your goals. So you have to strongly consider if this person can't help you with them and they're actually a barrier there. You can't say, well, we're having a wonderful time, in the bedroom or whatever else. If you can't progress, if you cannot progress with the person and they're preventing you, you have to look at getting out. And so that entails you knowing what your goals are, having them laid out, and having markers to where you say, well, at this, in 2 years, I need to be here. I want to be here. Or in 5 years, I want the family to be here. And, finance, business, education, religious, or whatever. So spiritual and religious goals, if you're trying to make it to Jannah, but this is the person, that, like I said, maybe the serial cheater, whatever, he probably might not make it because he's disobeying Allah at every turn. Every other day he's doing that. This could be a person that might be limiting you. So you have to look at it that way. Financially, if you have a person where you have some financial goals, but either they're spending too much money or they're costing you too much money or whatever, there's things you can elaborate there with financially. Social, family network goals, these things. Like I said, if a person doesn't want kids, you want kids, all these things. So if you have certain goals laid out and they're clearly identified, and you clearly know that this person is not able or willing to help you get there, they're a barrier. I mean, it should be an open and shut case. Hey, I'm sorry, you go your way, I'll go mine. We'll leave it there.
I want to touch in because like on a situation that I know, that whole emotional engagement, it was like the argument or whatever. That was like a red flag to like, oh wait, something's going on here. I'm aware of another situation that was exactly like that. Like the person, it was a guy and a girl, something that happened, and pretty much how they were fighting. Like this guy's not her husband. She like rammed his car with her car. She was trying to fight him, it was like everybody's kind of looking like, huh. And then once everybody like peeped that, then it came out like, oh, those two were having a relationship, because there's no way that you're going to be that engaged in whatever y'all was fighting over that you're going to be trying to damage basically like how a ghetto hood rat woman would do with her boyfriend she caught cheating. It's like, wait a minute, y'all not even, what's going on? Exactly. You're both married to the other people. What the heck is going on? Like, yeah, they're having an affair. So the first question we have, and it's in the chat, it says, it's from Baki Sunken, and it says, Assalamu alaikum. Let me just put it in here. Assalamu alaikum. I can't read it. Hold on. It says, Assalamu alaikum. What is the panel's marital status and how long have y'all been married? May Allah bless y'all. So yeah, we're all married. I've been married altogether since, well, I don't know how many years. I'm 19 and I'm 45 now. So what's that? 26 years in total I've been married. So yeah, we're all married. Otherwise, I can give you guys their stats. I'll get you out of the other questions.
Yeah, we're all married, and we've all been married for a long time. We've all at least been married. We've all definitely have been in polygamy. We all have been through divorce. In general, like it ain't a thing where we're just talking at the side of our head. All the issues that we're talking about, either it's direct experience or secondhand, or like we've been involved in it. So yeah, but yeah, we're all married.
Altogether, I'm at 21 years myself. That's including my divorce. Yeah, we all have we have a team. We have a camp of kids as well.
You gotta count polygamy years as 2 years, depend on how many wives you had.
Yeah, you gotta double that. Let me see.
Yeah, you got.
So I'm probably I'm at like 23 years. I am 41 years old.
Listen,
Mark's been married longer than he's alive.
I'm over 40, yeah, man. I'm like 50. I'm like 50 years. I've been married 50 years.
Okay, so this one says, it's from a woman. She says, if my husband has a lower sex drive than me, I think the wise thing for me to do is get a divorce so I do not step out on him. That's a real reality I have to consider. First, I want to give advice to your husband. Leave her before she leaves you. Just how I mean, leave her before she leaves you.
Run, brother.
That Forrest Gump meme.
You can't save this. No, no,
Yeah.
seriously, seriously. No. I mean, so it does depend on age, but I think if you're when you just talk about sex drive, listen, if your husband is healthy, like I said, he does not have a medical or some sort of biological issue that's preventing him from being able to perform, then I would put the blame back on you. I would put it back on you. If he's able to do the job, but you say, well, he doesn't feel like it. It might just be you. He might just not really like to deal with you that way. So
Let me jump in there. Let me jump right in there, Mubarak. Tag me in. This goes right back to what we was talking about earlier, and this is actually a big deal, and a lot of women just don't seem to be aware of it. Man is healthy, just like Mubarak was just saying. If he's healthy, he's capable, he's able. Simply put, woman, you have to be attractive to the man and you have to arouse him. 9 times out of 10, when you arouse a man and he's attracted in that way, you're going to be able to get some type of action. You said low sex drive. You didn't say absent. You didn't say that he just doesn't want to deal with you. Yours is just higher than his. So that's not a reason to go, and that's wild to even say that or even ask that question to keep it a buck. Like,
well, it's legit. I think if that's a thing, like obviously sex is very important to the sister, right? But as my companions have been saying, it's not as simple as he just has a low sex drive. I'm telling you, 99% of men are pretty much the same in this category. Like Mubarak said, if there's no physical thing going on where it's like, some kind of complications that you need assistance with or whatever, if he's a normal, healthy man, our sex drives are usually pretty good. Yes, they fluctuate. Yes, as we get older, it goes down a little bit, but that curve is real straight. It goes down very slow. There will be times, if you're in a long enough marriage, where, women, depending on how old you are, as answer this question, where naturally a woman's sex drive skyrockets, right? And it's going to be way higher than the man's. But eventually that's going to go down, right? So I don't know what stage you are in your life, but there's a lot of things, there's some things you should do before you start thinking about, I should leave him. First of all, the fact that you said I should leave him or I'm going to step out on him actually tells me that you may have a problem, like sexually, right? I don't want to because this is an anonymous question. We don't know who we're talking to. So if I'm offending somebody that I may know, please don't be mad at me because I'm picking I don't know who answers this question. To equate that, because a woman's natural inclination regarding sex is, okay, I need to get it or I'm going to go get it from somewhere else. You are on the spectrum of being a serial cheater or a sex addict, right? Whether maybe possibly you were sexualized too young at a young age or whatever, something is wrong there. So you need to check that in yourself, because that's not a woman. Naturally, a woman's first take is, I'm going to go get it from somewhere else. That's a man's first take. I ain't get it from here. I'm going to go get it from somewhere else. I'm going to get it, right? The other thing is that you actually have to do is, which my brothers already mentioned, but I'm going to give you some more specifics, is that a person's sex drive is a lot of things go into that. So like as a man, when we first get married, we're just most of the times like, oh, okay, the physical part, right? During the honeymoon period. That's enough for us during that honeymoon period. But there's a time when that honeymoon period ends and that physical thing is not going to be the ticket anymore. You're not just going to be able to show a little leg and let's get it. That's not going to happen like that anymore. There's more things that you have to be more seasoned and have more experience, have more skill in other aspects that tie into that, right? That's going to the guy's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here, right? And the other part is, so basically you have to do the things that you need to do to pique his sexual interest. The other part is it's a balancing act. You need to find things that are going to actually, I'm not going to say lower your sex drive, but satisfies your sexual need. What am I saying here? A lot of women are, I'm not going too far, but I'll say a lot of women are not sexually educated, right? Or have knowledge in this area. And so some women mistake their high sex drive simply because they think that more sex is going to satisfy their sexual need. It's kind of like this, right? if you eat a real good meal, that everything is tasting, it's on point, it's like everything was great, you actually just like get one plate and you're like, oh, I'm satisfied. Like that was good. But when you get trash food, you trick yourself by just eating more and more food until you feel full and engorge yourself, and then like, now I'm satisfied. So, sister, it might be that you need to have a conversation with your husband or even with yourself and say, okay, how do I even know how to get satisfied in this aspect? How can I also communicate with my husband like, yo, I don't like this, I like this, and XYZ, ABC, this is the path to get me here. And then you'll find out, maybe, you know what, I don't need 10 times, I just need 2 good times, and I'm good for however time. So if you do that and you meet in the middle, maybe there'll be some success. But first thing first, check yourself about the, I need to leave before I commit adultery, because that's not a healthy mindset.
Yeah, and with a lot of women, sometimes their sex drive is emotional. It's not biological. It's not a biological sex drive. It's an emotional sex drive. They think they want more love, adoration, admiration. They want to have a stronger relationship or connection with their husband, and they just equate that if he's having sex with me every day, then he's happy, or that strengthens it for them. But it's really not the case. A man can be having, like we talked about, man can be having sex with a woman every day and not like her at all.
Yep.
And sometimes, and I'll just try to give a few things where you can actually implement these and take them to the bank. Number one is good company. Are you good company? Does he like you? Does he like you? And sometimes it's very hard for a woman. There's like a viral clip that was going around where a woman was being interviewed, and the host asked her, "Is your husband happy?"
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Well, why does that matter?" Like and then he's like, "Well, it's just a question. Is your husband happy?" And she couldn't even answer the question. That Negro is not happy. He's probably miserable.
We all knew the answer.
Yeah, we knew the answer. But the thing is, it's like, that's number one. If you want and I guarantee you, a lot of men are shy to say these things. That's one reason why we do the show. We're telling you things that probably your husband might not ever even tell you, or a lot of men won't say. You won't hear this on, some of these other things. But if you are good company, your accuracy as far as when you want intimacy, that you'll get it if you're good company. Okay, so that's the number one thing. Is he happy with you? Does he like you? If you work on that, then that will help. That will directly correlate. Then on top of that is if you know, listen, I need intimacy at this time or whatever. I need this every day. You have to work at it like it's a job, right? You can't have, at the time where you want to do it, the kids running in and out of the room, whatever's going on. You got to set the table and make sure, okay, listen, I know that my husband gets off work at this time. I got this window. Make sure that the environment is clear, the landing zone is ready or whatever. You're clean, in good shape, ready or whatever, smelling nice and everything or whatever, to where you reduce the drag and you reduce the amount of stress that goes on, that he might have to work his way through, make his way through the bushes just to get to you. And sometimes and another thing I say, one thing, sometimes women, they want to have a heated, conversation or argument or stress them out. Before, nah, make sure everything is relaxed and cool. Don't bring up nothing but just
or even how about the when like they're in that space, like, all right, it's in that intimate space, and it's like, so what'd you do at work today? Yeah, oh yeah, I talked to Cheryl today. Like what?
It's not game. Because truthfully, this is a whole separate topic.
Yeah.
Really need to get to and do. And again, when we're talking about this, we're speaking from experience, speaking from a place of experience. Both of y'all brothers are just cooking right now. Because what you said about sexual education, Jafar, is so on point. The sexual education that women have, that they've been fed, versus what is reality in regards to how a man operates. It's literally, a lot of them just don't know what's going on, don't know what to do. And if they just were good company, good quality company, consistently, just like y'all said, they will do something goofy or weird and then expect X, Y, and Z. And again, unfortunately, That's not how seasoned, experienced, married men operate. Now, that's something that maybe would work in a setting where you're a boyfriend or girlfriend, you got some toxic situationship going on or something, and y'all get to have some little makeup sex after y'all cuss each other out or something like that. But at these levels here, where the altitude is different and the mountain peak is higher, married men trying to have a sustainable, long relationship, we don't operate like that. We don't operate like that. You showing a little leg, or
you know what it's like. It's almost like you have to be, when you're in a marriage. This is men and women, right? You have to be the type of salesperson that could sell somebody a car that they already bought, right? It's easy to sell somebody a car like they don't have it. Like look at the interior, look at the features and all that. But once they buy the car, they're like, oh, I own the car now. I can drive it whenever I want. Now you have to be that type of salesperson, that person that could get in his face, like, hey, look at this car you bought. You want to buy it again? Guess you have to think about yourself like that, and actually just, because it's there. It's there. Once you get married, it's there. It's accepted that this is what it is. And like Hussein said, the same sales techniques that you used to get the person to initially engage in that contract or that situation aren't necessarily going to be the same ones that you're going to use to keep that person driving that car. Okay. Next question we have is, yep, go ahead.
Let me just next question one more time. Listen, I just have to say this because I think, and if you just take this one thing, if you do all these other things, okay. But if even if you're not there, or whatever, you're working on trying to be good company, but you're not, or whatever, I would say also you can, you look at yourself in the mirror, take your clothes off, look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this attractive? If it's not, work. Even if you get 1% better, guess what? That is like almost a brand new woman to your husband. So that's one thing that you can do. And if all else fails, I'm gonna tell you a trick. It'll work every time. I'm not telling you to do anything, do whatever comes natural. But I'm telling you, if you just do this one thing, you make sure the environment is a situation where, if everything works right, that he can do for you and with you what you would like for him to do. Make sure everything's quiet, calm, no stress. You lay your head in his lap. Just do that. Just do that. Nature will take its course. You lay there. You don't even need to say anything. It'll happen. You get the job done. I
was gonna say one thing. I'll tell y'all brothers after the show is. But
I'm trying to help you out. Listen. You don't really need to do anything. You don't need to say anything. Put your head right there in his lap and just be quiet for a little while.
The thing is, we're so simple. It's like how can y'all not know? Like it's so easy for women to do this. For guys, we actually have to have classes and talk to each other and start sharing techniques and tactics, and it's so simple for women.
But women are so funny because they will still. Sometimes you could spell it out for them, they still fumble the ball. It's like all you gotta do. Don't talk. Don't say anything. Literally, all these things that you like. Okay, I'm want to talk after. Did you know your husband will sit and listen to all the cackling you want to do afterwards? He might fall asleep. Seriously, I know. I know we're laughing, but seriously, women. I mean, I'm seriously that will work. No stress free. Make sure the environment stress free. Even if you haven't been good company before, he might be pissed at you. He might be mad at you. Like, you're not getting nothing. I'm separating the bed from you. All right. He's sitting on the couch, whatever. Sit on the couch next to him, lay your head in his lap, and just keep quiet. Yes. I promise you, you'll reach the target. I promise you.
Yep. Yes. So next question is, if I feel I'm being good company, but my husband does not think so, then it is not easy to just say be good company, because everyone has different types of things they find enjoyable in a person. This is from a woman. Go ahead, Mubarak, or anyone who's saying, what you guys got any instincts on this one? I find an issue with the question, but go ahead.
Yeah. I understand the question, and this is a question that comes commonly with women. It's like they say I'm being good company. I'm very nice to you. I'm very submissive. I'm very this, that, and other. That's your perspective, but your perspective. But what we're talking about is you being good company to the other person, and this can work for the man too. The man could say, "Well, how could I be good company to you?" But usually, it will work for both if the woman's working for the man. Not in every scenario, but so for the woman, and it's so hard for them to say it. It's almost like you stuck a knife in their side or something when I say, ask your husband, are you happy with me? Ask him to his face, what can I do to make you happy? It will probably be stuff that's so simple if you just say it, because men naturally, good men, they might have a long list of things, but you just saying that sincerely, they'll be like, it's cool. They'll be like, yeah, you know what, I just would like for you not to, raise your voice. This is what I don't like or whatever. He'll make it easier for you a lot of times. But even if he doesn't, if he tells you directly what he likes and doesn't like, and you do that, and if you do it every day, just say, hey, listen, did I upset you today or something? Some people might be like, oh, this old submissive stuff or whatever. You guys are old fashioned, whatever. I'm just telling you, this will work. If you want to be good company, ask him. Ask him, how can I be good company? He'll tell you. Ask him every day until he starts saying, man, I really appreciate being around you. Listen, that's one of the highest compliments a woman can get, when the man just unprompted. Not just saying, oh, don't you? Sometimes women, they almost force it out of you. Don't you like, don't you love me? They want to force it out of you. But when the man just around you, like, say, hey, listen, oh, what would you like? Man, you're really great, man. I appreciate you, XYZ. When you get that without you having to force it out of him, then you're there. You're there. But until then, ask him every day.
Yeah, and to add, I mean, Mubarak actually said everything I was pretty much going to say. Yeah, just from your perspective, a lot of times women, they always believe that they're sweeter than they are. And they never necessarily take the information that the man is trying to give them. They just kick it to the side, or it's probably a little bit too hard for them to implement these things. And yes, building a good quality, solid relationship is going to be work. It's going to have its levels of difficulty. But like Mubarak was saying, simple things. I mean, Mubarak is actually you kind of giving them back right now. Just being quiet, learning when to stop talking. A lot of times women be talking too much when they over talk, and they'll talk themselves right out of a positive situation or right out of a good environment by just talking too much. Keep quiet. If you want these results that you keep saying that you want, do some of the things that we're telling you to do. They are going to work. We are experienced men. We're telling you exactly what's going to be effective. We didn't accidentally, we don't accidentally have long lasting relationships. We're not sitting over here with 10 plus, 15 plus years of marital experience and our wives are still comfortable. We value their opinion. This is another thing. I'm going to give you guys another tip right here for women. If a man comes to you and he's asking your advice, he's saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? This is a big compliment to you, how he views you. If a man's not coming to you, he's not really asking your advice. He don't really talk to you like that. You have this whatever relationship. You're not really in that space with him. But if a man comes to you and what do you think about this, honey, dear, babe, whatever he calls? Do you think I should do this? You think I should do that? Or what do you think about? If he's coming to you like that, you have that man's attention, you have his respect, and most likely you have his heart. But
yeah. I just want to add on for the people that are going to follow that advice. Hopefully, you follow that advice, sister that asked that question. But make sure, and not just women who do that. Well, mostly women who do this. When you're asking your husband, like, what can I do better? Or how can I be a better partner? How can I be good company or whatever? Your biggest fight with yourself is to not make it about yourself. Because this is what typically happens. Someone's like, well, what can I do better? And he'll say, like, I think Mubarak example is like, if you stop yelling or stop raising your voice, I don't like it when you raise your voice. Then immediately what happens is the woman will actually flip it and get mad at the husband for being mad that he doesn't like her raising her voice. Well, then he's now all of a sudden, this is how you know when it happens. A lot of sisters, you don't even know you're doing it. But this is how you'll recognize, like, oh, I messed up, I did this. Is when your husband's actually, the conversation started where you trying to figure out your flaws and find out what your husband's issues are with you. And somehow the conversation changed where your husband's now asking you, what's wrong? That's how you know you just lost the ball. You fumbled. right? Because you started pouting, you started getting up mad because of the things he said, and now he's the one that's actually trying to appease you. What's wrong? Why aren't you talking? Why are you what? No, actually take their advice, be positive about it, and don't make it about yourself, right?
And what
The last question we have, which is not really it can't be a serious question, but it's from a man, and he says, "I'm thinking about getting with my ex-wife's sister. Should I do it?" No. I mean, well, most likely no. I mean,
what? Say it.
he said, "I'm thinking about," I'll use his words. This is an adult show. "I'm thinking about smashing my ex-wife's sister. Should I do it?" I'm saying no, just because if it's your ex-wife's sister and you're just talking about smashing her, it sounds like you're just trying to have revenge on your ex-wife. One, I would say that's unhealthy that you have that much concern or care about your ex-wife that you want to sleep with her sister to get revenge on her. You
And
should
now,
not be in that mental space.
is the ex-wife's sister even receptive to this blurt that you just blurted out? Like,
Probably not. Probably
Yeah,
not.
most likely not.
This person seriously is deranged. This person has major issues. They're a person who this is a dangerous person actually. Probably somebody who will, even if he did get with the ex-wife's sister, that wouldn't be enough. He would still be trying to get with the ex-wife, trying anything desperate to get her attention or whatever. And that's probably why she's not with you now, because you're kind of a loser, from what it seems like.
I mean, let's just chalk
I mean,
it
if
up.
this is a serious question, if the person is joking, he's still kind of silly, but
This question is serious. We're going to chalk it up as possibly or something.
Yeah, it can't. But just to even, if the person is trying to be a joke, but I would say that even if the person is trying to joke, there's an element of seriousness that this is actually in your mind, right? That you would actually type this in. Even you're anonymous as a public forum, and we're gonna cover the questions. And I would say, as a man, for me anyway, I'll just speak personally. My biggest turn off is when I know someone's not interested in me, right? So if this person is your ex-wife, right, and you're in a space where you feel like you have to punish her, get back at her, be vindictive, obviously it's a situation where she don't want you and you still want her. And that's a very unhealthy space to be in, because like, for instance, I'll just go back, in the past when I see someone like, I'm interested, I'm gonna see what's up with so and so. As soon as I got a whiff, that was like, oh no, you're not my type. You automatically just became not my type. Like, all that feeling of I was attracted to you, and I'm good now. Like, we go play basketball together. I don't give two shits about you now. That's how you have to be mentally. You can't be chasing somebody that don't want you. That TV stuff of the guy like hanging around and, you're going to be my wife one day, Sally. I know you don't want me now, but you're going to want me in the future. Like, come on, man.
The Notebook type of Joan. I hate that daggone movie. That's one of the worst. Oh my god, worst movies of all time, man. We I don't
should-
get that.
We should do a watch party and comment on that.
Yeah, women love that Joan. They will get mad at you for trashing the Notebook. Like, what? You don't like? No, Notebook was trash. Anyway, the question that the person, I'm assuming, definitely was a man, being that he's trying to smash a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of tactics. That's like the type of mindset that some of these emotionally damaged women do. Right?
Yeah.
Their ex left them or whatever, they broke up. They want their ex back, so they will try to then get with, a brother or a friend or someone, even the father. They do all types of stuff just to try to get their attention. It's not healthy, but this is something that you see some of these women do. But for men, I mean, that's like you down way bad, down real bad.
There was a light heavyweight boxing match. I don't know if y'all caught it. It was that Muslim guy. It was the Artur Beterbiev or whatever his name is, and it was a big fight. He was fighting against that other Russian looking guy. Forget his name, but this is how men should be, right? Of course, the guy who won, he's a champ, right? But the other guy, they're both like top contenders, like a mega fight. He recently got a divorce from his, and his ex-wife was like blatantly going on like social media cheering for her ex-husband's like challenger or whatever. Like, I want him to win. She was ringside, like cheering on like the guy. But the guy that she was cheering for, he found out, like, when they asked him about it in the press, he said one line. He's like, that's very disturbing to me. Like, they thought it was because he's his opponent that he's going to be like, yeah, like, we're going to. He's like, that's weird. That's the type of stuff this person is doing. Like, no, don't be weird, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's it. We got the show for today. Again, if you have any questions after the show, or if you're watching this later, you can still click the link in the chat to ask your anonymous questions. Next week, we're going to finish up on this topic. So join us, have your questions ready, come in, participate. We appreciate all of our viewers, and have a nice rest of your day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.